Hi everyone. Welcome to one more conference of this self-knowledge course. Today we will be studying an interesting topic in which we will delve into the true meaning behind a ritual that is practiced by many religious cults, that is the ritual of baptism. The objective of this conference is that we understand what the baptism really is, and that we understand its esoteric significance. Today we are going to see that baptism is really an esoteric ritual, that is to say that it is something that we must live in the internal worlds. Therefore, we are going to begin by differentiating the exoteric from the esoteric baptism. Because we will see that this exoteric baptism, that is the baptism that we see is practiced externally, on the physical plane, is just a symbolism of something that internally has a very important meaning in relation to the initiatory path. The sacrament of baptism actually exists in some way in all cults. Not only Christian religions have it, but also a multitude of other religions. Whenever someone enters one of those religions, he is baptized. Religions have two circles, the exoteric or public, and the esoteric or secret. The esoteric circle doesn't study the sacred books in a merely exoteric or external way, but in an esoteric way. This is by leaving aside the letter that kills to capture the spirit that vivifies, what is written between the lines, what the multitudes are not able to understand. Anyways, most of the religions have currently lost the initiation tradition, however, they preserve the exoteric ritual of baptism. This external ritual is just representing the esoteric baptism that we have to carry out in our inner world. This exoteric rituals used to serve to awaken in the people attending them the desire to delve into those symbolisms. So those who make themselves eyes to see and ears to listen were secretly included in the esoteric circle, and began to receive instructions for the awakening of their consciousness that led them to the initiation. But with the passage of time, and the decline of the race, this has already been lost in the vast majority of religious cults. And baptism has become a way in which people are just affiliated as members of that cult, and are psychologically linked to the entities that nowadays manage these cults. Then, what baptism really is? Baptism is a pact of sexual magic, a sexual commitment. The ritual of baptism is a ceremony through which the baptized makes a pact with the God within him, to later practice sexual alchemy. If later the child, now an adult, complies with the pact, it will have served him. If he does not fulfill the pact, he will fail. It does not matter that he received the sacrament in the physical world. What is the point of receiving it if you do not comply with the oath, with the pact? This means that the salvation of the human being is in sex and in the spinal cord, and anything that is not there is a useless waste of time. In the baptism ritual, water is poured on the head of the baptized person. This represents that the waters have to rise to the brain during sexual transmutation. This is the key to baptism. Only by working the pure waters of life can one return to the Edenic paradisiacal state. The baptismal font, for example, in Christian churches represents the philosopher's stone and the creative organs. There is deposited the lustral water, the mercury of the alchemists, which represents the sacred sperm. The fire of the candles represents the sulfur of the alchemists, the fire that is released after the death of each defect. If the one who is baptized knows how to intelligently combine mercury with sulfur, he achieves the second birth, he enters the kingdom of heaven. But if the person who is baptized never works with mercury and sulfur, that baptism has been of no use to him. The consummation of baptism is achieved in the sacrament of marriage, with the practice of the sexual magic. When the first sexual practice occurs, the marriage pact is consummated. When one is sexually united with a person, one is married to that person. Once the marriage takes place, then the person begins to work on dominating his inner waters, and must work through psychological death and the elimination from his psychology of all the defects of fornication, so that there are no sexual falls, and that the energy begins to rise through his spinal column in a process called turning the waters. Each person who is working with discipline in achieving chastity, and that is practicing supersex with a stable partner in fidelity, chastity and love, will experience this in his internal worlds. He will be passing his inner waters from black to white, then to yellow, and then from yellow to red, to get to light the sacred fire. We saw in the conference of the initiation and the trials, that the person who is undergoing this process of purification of their waters, will be put to a trial of fire, that if he manage to pass it, then internally he will be given a sword that indicates that he is already an initiate. That means that the sacred fire has already been lit in his spine, and that from that moment on, the energy that he makes ascend through his spine, will condense vertebra by vertebra. The regeneration of the physical and vital body starts taking place at the same time, because there is an intimate relationship between these two bodies, since the vital body is the energy of the physical body. The first two serpents rise together to a certain extent. Then, that of the vital body stops and only that of the physical body continues to rise, until it is completely raised. When the first 33 vertebrae are fully filled with that condensed energy for the first time, the first initiation of major mysteries will have been completed. The first serpent will have risen. The physical body will have been regenerated, and that is where the process of water baptism begins. It is important to know that baptism is a whole process that begins with the culmination of the initiation of the physical body, and ends with the culmination of the initiation of the vital body. When the first serpent is already raised, that of the vital body will continue ascending from them on, and its completion takes the same time as it took for the entire initiation of the physical body. The water baptism occurs precisely after having created the physical body, while the vital body is concluded. But we must know that there are three baptisms: the baptism of water, that of fire, and that of light. The baptism of water is that of the first mountain. It is related to the completion of the solar vital body. The baptism of fire, which is that of the second mountain, is related to the completion of the vital body of gold and is represented by the beheading of John the Baptist. John said that he baptized with water, but that behind him would come someone who would baptize with fire. And by this, he was referring to the Christ, who, as we already know, is that interior and universal fire that is born and develops in us, in the work of the second mountain. The baptism of light is the true baptism. This is related to the second birth and the creation of the light bodies on the third mountain. They are bodies that will allow our inner being, our Father which is pure light, to become one with us. At the moment that the Father goes down and unites with the person, the true baptism takes place. At that moment we will have reached self-knowledge, to become one with our real being and to awaken 100% of our consciousness. Remember that the work that will lead us to achieve the great purpose of our existence implies to work wisely with our sexual energy to recover our lost power. Only by working the pure waters of life can we return to the paradisiacal Edenic state. And this has been today's conference. I hope you reflect on its meaning. In the next 3 conferences we will be talking about the mountains of initiation, which are the 3 great works that we will have to carry out to achieve the intimate self-realization of the being. In the next lecture we will see in detail the process of the first mountain. Don't miss it. Until next time.